Welcome, everyone. I'm Chelsea Trowbridge with the ISU Alumni Association. Before we get started with today's presentation, I invite you all to put what city or state you are watching from in the chat box. We had over 290 cyclones register, and we know many of you will watch this later. We encourage you to use the chat box throughout today's presentation to ask your questions and leave comments. We will get to as many as we can during our time together. Our guest speaker will also throw out some questions to the group, so make sure to put those answers in the chat. We would like to recognize our ISU Alumni Association members. Because of membership dues, we are able to offer free events such as this one. With that, I am excited to introduce Tanya Austin. Tanya is the Assistant Director in the Ivy College of Business Career Services at Iowa State University. She plays a pivotal role in providing strategic guidance, coaching, and support to students and alumni in their career journeys, specializing in the areas of entrepreneurship, human resource management, and management. Hi, Tanya.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Look forward to hearing all about this topic.
Great. Well, hey, as y'all are just logging in, I love that you are putting where you're calling in from here today. It might be morning where you are, it might be late afternoon, but right now here in Ames, Iowa, pretty great day at noon. So thank you again for joining. As mentioned, I am Assistant Director in Business Career Services. I did recognize a few names as I have some previous alum that are joining. So we do have a diverse group here today. So it looks like, some of you might be in first career moves, others are, decades in. So I love that we have this diverse and robust group of participants here today. So I want today to be engaging, so I don't want to just speak at y'all. So please feel free to interject any questions that you have. I want this to be as specific and as helpful as I can make it for you and for all the, again, diverse participants that we have here today. I have my contact information there, so if you're at all interested in circling back post webinar, feel free to reach out. Love to connect with you. And in addition, I think I will just give a plug since we're sitting here with all ISU alum, that you all have access to your career services from your original college from when you graduated. So again, if you're needing additional insight, don't hesitate to reach out. We are here and will assist any and all alumni, helping you be competitive in a job market space. So with that being said, I think I want to kick it off with a question here today, get some thoughts going here. From our participants, how many of you are currently in a job-seeking environment? Like you've launched, you're starting to submit, or maybe you're thinking about this is the cliff that you're going to go off of and you're going to start after this webinar. So I'd like to just get a pulse if we could. If you would just put it in the comment section, if we are actively seeking right now, contemplating it, just get an idea of where everybody's at. Give you a minute to put in some comments. Okay, we have a few comments coming through. So good, you work with students, so you're looking to gain some additional insight to share on. Love that. Looking for ideas. So the reason why I pose this question too is I want to just remind you that 58% of the workforce population will probably be doing some active employment search here in the next 12 months based on some recent polls. So the market space is volatile right now. And so we're going to talk through all of that and see how AI can actually help you stand out with your candidacy. So we're looking, if we could just go to the next slide, that would be great. So here's what I have lined up for today, if we're all in agreement here. First, I want to just touch base a little bit about what the trends are in hiring and recruiting. So if you have not been in the market space for a couple of years, it is a change in. And so our theme here today is game plan, and that'll start to come more clear as we go through here. But then we're going to talk about components of effective resumes and at least what we're teaching here in the College of Business. So you might have different practices based on your industries. So I just want to remind you that what I'm talking about here is how we coach and train business students. Then we're going to go into some best practices for leveraging AI, resources, tools, and then, hey, the meat of this webinar is going to be about application. So I hope to open up some technologies and platforms if everything's working as it should be. And we're going to actually dive in and just do some application of how to use the technology. And then we'll leave it open for any questions. But with that being said, I do want to remind you too that put questions as they arise. If I'm not clear on something or you want some deeper understanding, don't hesitate to do that in the comments section. Okay, so trends in recruiting. So if you haven't been in this space for a while, I use this crazy emoji because it is volatile right now, right? You're hearing things that, the market space is robust, but then you hear certain industries that are doing layoffs. And if you haven't been in the game of job seeking, certainly within the past 3 to 5 years, it is a whole different ball game right now. We're going to go into some of that. Recruiters are using, what we call applicant tracking systems. So we're going to touch base a little bit on that. We're going to talk about what makes an effective resume and how to, I call, beat the bot through these computer applicant tracking systems. But just as a reminder, so the landscape right now, as you know, is different. Jobs are different. Roles are different. How we're being hired is different. How we want to work is even different. So those are all the challenges that we have. And, the good side of all of this change is that you have more opportunity than you've ever had right now. There is no better space than right now to be pivoting careers as employers and recruiters start to lean more towards a skills-based hiring versus just the college degree. So we're going to touch in on some of that. Can I answer any questions about trends in hiring and recruiting, or is that kind of fill you up with what's happening here? Okay, looks like we can start to go on. Okay, so next slide here, what you need to know about AI. So benefits and challenges. So especially in an academic setting like we are right now, you get both sides of the picture here, right? AI, plagiarism, students aren't critically thinking, they aren't doing their own work. From a professional development standpoint, there's nothing but benefits to be had with AI, but there's some challenges that come with it, right? So I don't sit out here and claim to be the expert in AI technology, but I do know enough to know that we want to consider AI as a assistant, if you will, right? So we're not having it create our exact, work and resumes and interviewing questions and things like that, but it is something to help you brainstorm. And then you as the human get to critically think through what parts of certain components make most sense and are accurate. So there's a lot of, like I said, controversy around it. But the one thing I do know is that this is not going away, right? And so we need to understand how to leverage it effectively, ethically. And that's what we're going to talk here about today. I think we're going to also, if Chat GPT plays nice with us here today, this is where I'm going to be doing some application demonstration where we can actually go into that site and see how it can be helpful in the creation of some of your job seeking collateral, whether it be resumes, cover letters. That's a whole nother thing, right? So cover letters and the evolution of AI might be something that goes away completely, because how humanized are those cover letters that now that you can generate these. But until things get really sophisticated and regulated, I think this is a really great way to help you quickly and easily apply for positions and come across as a really strong candidate. So anyway, that's where we'll go with this. If we could go to the next slide here. Actually, before I go into best practices of resume and design, if I could just pose another question that I'd like to engage you with. I want to get a pulse of what your comfortability is with using AI. So if you could all put in the comments kind of where you're at, and let's do this on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being you're an expert. What number would you give yourself in the area of comfortability and navigating artificial intelligence platforms, technologies. Oh, double J, I'm going to lean in on you. It looks like you're an expert. So 5 being the peak. Yeah, we're falling in. For the people that are reporting, it looks like we're mostly in those just learning, right? Like 1, 2s, and 3s. I would say myself, I'm at that 3, maybe 4, but would love to hear from those that say 5 as we lean into some of these technologies. So as mentioned, one of my favorite parts of AI right now has been over the summer is having it help me ideate, right? So I'm not using it to just simply copy and paste, but I'm using it to help me articulate what is floating around up here and how do I represent it best. And so resumes is an area that I think can really be helpful in you articulating your best self on that piece of paper. So let's remember what a resume is, right? A resume is your gateway into the interview. So the resume will never get you the job. It's going to get you the interview, and it's the interview that lands you the job, right? So you just want to make sure that you can present your best self, that you get looked at and get, invited in for an interview. And so this is where our first level of AI comes into play, and it's in those applicant tracking systems that I mentioned here just a little bit earlier. So applicant tracking systems are sometimes known as ATS, so same acronym. These are what many, many employers, especially mid and post-COVID, utilize to help manage, organize, and maintain applications. Okay, so if for a moment you put your hat on as a recruiter and you've got 12 jobs that are open and you're getting hundreds, if not thousands of applicants for each of those 12 jobs, you're going to need a system, right, that can help minimize and effectively identify candidates. And so as a job seeker, your number one goal is to tailor and design your resume specifically to the job descriptions that you are applying to. So no more can you just create a resume and say, that's good, now I'm going to start sending out applications. You're going to need to, take 5, 10, 15 minutes to really tailor that resume, because if you're running, as like I said, and Fortune 500 companies, they're more along the 95 to 98% of them are using applicant tracking systems. How you get pre-qualified is through a computer. That computer does not, critically think and kind of read between the lines of what you think is articulating as good skills and a good connection for that role. It needs to specifically say keywords from that job description, right? And so that is your main goal, is to keyword optimize by showcasing skills that then can rank your candidacy higher in that applicant tracking system. So when recruiters do go to their database, they can pull out those high ranking candidates. And that's where they'll take a closer look at your resume and then decide whether or not they want to invite you in. So when you start to think about designing a resume, you need to keep in mind your audience. So understand as much as you can about the industry, the role, the company, right? Who is your audience? Next, we want to showcase those skills that are relevant to the job that you are applying to. You need to make it very clear, especially if you're pivoting into a different industry. How do your skills transfer into a new environment or a new industry, right? So that is your goal. And then keyword optimizing. And you'll see here in a moment, we're going to deconstruct a resume together, but simple is always best. These applicant tracking systems rolled out, they've been, around for decades, but when COVID hit and there was a surge in hiring, everybody got on board and started using these, but they just were not that sophisticated yet. So it's coming, gang, because one thing that we've learned is they're probably not going to turn away from applicant tracking systems. They're only making them more sophisticated. But in the current space right now, I want you to remember or remind yourself less is more when it comes to resume creation. I have a lot of students that will oftentimes, pull templates from Etsy and some of these really highly creative, which aesthetically they're beautiful. And I have a design background, so I appreciate those. But the problem is those applicant tracking systems may not be able to read your resume simply because there are icons, multiple text boxes. Maybe you're utilizing the header and the footer feature in your Word doc, which we want to avoid doing that. Again, the best way to beat the bot is to, make sure that it can read your resume and still look aesthetically pleasing to the human eye. So when it does rank high, then they're going to look and be impressed. And there's some room for wiggle on that. If you're in a highly creative space, marketing perhaps, maybe you have a little bit more leeway. But if you're just not getting the return on investment that you thought with your applications, then maybe you need to rethink. Maybe it's my resume that's getting in the way here. I do think there is a time and a place too on LinkedIn that you could promote your more creative resume and include that in your LinkedIn profile versus using it for application. So you might have two versions, or at least I would have encouraged you to do that. So you've got a working resume and then you've got a more creative that can showcase your skills and talents visually. Okay, with that being said, I think we'll move on to the next slide here. And this is where we are going to deconstruct. So I'm sorry for people like me that have old eyes out there. This might be a little bit hard to read, but let's just take this from the top. So you can see, from a quick glance, there's a lot of white space here, which is great. That helps the eye go to where it needs to go, emphasizes the right things. But it's very simple, right? You want to make the resume skimmable. If I am a recruiter and I've got 20 paper resumes laying in front of me, I'm going to, look at the ones that I can easily navigate instead of having to find the information that I'm looking for. Make their job easy. And that's how you're going to stand out in a pile of resumes. So some of you, this layout might look a little bit different because as a new, fairly new professional, your education will still come higher up on your resume, and that is your gateway in, right? Once you've been in industry 3-5 years, your experience will trump education all day long, right? So your education section can move down to the bottom. So if we're looking at this in a high level and you're out there and you're looking to pivot career after 15 years in a certain industry, by all means, get your education back down to the bottom and emphasize your work experience. But even with that being said, let's just start a little bit higher up. If you're new to the recruiting scene, we love a professional summary, and so do many recruiters. And let me tell you the difference between a professional summary and what you might have currently called a professional objective or an objective statement, right? So the difference here is an objective statement does not tell that recruiter anything more than what they already know. It usually looks something like, seasoned professional with 10 years of experience looking for a project management role, right? So they know that because you've applied to their job, if indeed it was in project management. So a professional summary allows you to sell yourself, if you will, about your skills, your qualities or qualifications for the job in a compelling way that makes that reader want to look more at, your content. In addition, that professional summary section is the easiest place to keyword optimize. You could take 5 or 10 minutes just in your summary with every application and make sure you're lifting up the skills and qualities that they're interested in. And so it's no more than, 3 statements about you. You will write this summary in the third person as if somebody is talking about you instead of you using personal pronouns such as, I am a great learner. I am a great leader. So you'll want to, that's very helpful. Thank you. And so you'll want to write this in the third person as if somebody's speaking of you. So if we look at this, it says, this is just an example, highly innovative and entrepreneurial minded student with experience in project management and consulting, excellent presentation and communication skills with demonstrated ability to creatively solve problems in highly competitive, fast-paced environments. That's a catcher. That makes me as a recruiter want to read on. But what you're doing in that summary also is setting the stage. So everything you've mentioned in here about being entrepreneurial, being an excellent presenter and communication, you're going to want to back that up with the content in your work experience.
Hey, Tanya, this is a really great spot. We had a good question in the comment, in the chat box. What percentage of keywords from the job description should match your resume? You mentioned that this professional summary is a great place to put that. So it was a really good question.
Yeah, love that. So I will show you some technologies where you can upload your resume and copy and paste a job description. That software would suggest a 70% or higher match to be really competitive. So really great question. And I'm also going to show you some tips on how to identify what are the keywords from a job description, right? So we read these things and we're like, well, how do we know which keyword they're looking for? Which makes me look strongest? So we're going to use AI to tap into that. So when we go into the application part of this webinar, then hopefully we can demonstrate that to you. But if you can shoot for a 70% alignment with the job description, you should be in pretty darn good shape. So that's a great question. Okay, any other questions I can tap into? So sorry, I'm multitasking over here. Okay, well, let me know if there's something good that we want to talk through. Happy to do that. So professional summary, we'll move on from that then. So again, if you're that younger professional, new professional, education would come right there. If you're that seasoned professional, by all means, get that to the bottom. Unless you're just completing, you've come back to school and completed a degree and you want people to know that you have that. But usually in industry, experience will trump education all day long, right? Especially as we go towards more of a skills-based hiring process. So anyway, that's just an example of a student resume. So now you can see work experience. And in or for these applicant tracking systems, another tip they say is to keep those headers. So you see the header here is work experience, very simple. Or better yet, if you are a seasoned project manager looking for, another project management, you could put project management experience. So it's showing in direct relevant, listings under that work experience. This student here wanted to lift up that they have additional project experience that could help in their hiring. So that's great. And then for a student, they have additional, leadership achievements. We'll talk about a skills section here in a minute. But for seasoned professionals, here's the big thought process, right? So how long should this resume be? And you will see that this is one page. We coach our students no more than one page. I will tell seasoned professionals no more than 2 pages. A resume is not everything you've ever done. It is lifting up those experiences that make you appear to be qualified and directly relevant or transferable to the role that you're trying to attain, right? So think about it as the 10-year rule. Anything older than 10 years, I would start to fall off of your resume. It's not necessary. Employers are more hung up on what you've currently or recently been doing, where have you been learning, developing, and growing. And so 10 years is kind of my benchmark. Now, the beautiful thing, another AI tool that has launched, right, is LinkedIn and the use of that. So LinkedIn, is an extension of your resume. It can be as long and as much and as robust as you want it to be. But for your application, you want to tighten things up and be concise and compelling and really just showcase those most recent and relevant experiences on the resume. Any questions about any of that? I'm trying to look at my comments here to see if I'm missing. I want to talk for a minute about a skills section. I love a skills section. So what I coach my students on is I want this, however, to be your technical skills. And that is because, you could list that you have, leadership and a life learner and all those things, but it's more impactful if you can demonstrate that to me within one of your bullet points, rather than just give me a laundry list of soft skills like, trust me, I got this. So I would rather have you be more impactful by writing a bullet point around a soft skill, right? So that's one thing I want to lift up about technical skills. Now, I'm going to pose another question, and Matt doesn't have this one, so I'm just going to go rogue on him here for a minute. What would you say is the hardest part about, writing your resume? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, okay, today I'm going to write my resume. That sounds super fun, right? It's kind of daunting. So I'd like to hear from you. What is the most challenging or hardest part about you writing a resume? And let's get some feedback from participants here today. Looks like my slide deck got a little janky too with the upload. Sorry about that. Yeah, love that. Yep. So I'm getting things such as knowing what to include. So again, we're going to think relevance, right? What is the most relevant experience? Kind of tooting your own horn, right? Well, how do I make myself look good? How am I going to demonstrate those? Tailoring the job, and I've got tools and resources in the AI space that's going to help you with that. Fitting it all on 2 pages, yes, absolutely. And I think AI is going to help you do that as well. And wording concisely, all of those things you guys, is what AI is going to help you appear to do better. But in my world, I think the hardest part about creating a resume is crafting those results-driven bullet points, right? So I think I could put together a pretty good summary. I kind of know what my chronological history of work is, but how do I make myself look really good in those bullet points? So there's 3 things I always tell my students when you're crafting these. Always start with a strong action verb. If it is a current job, you're going to use present tense. If it's a past role, you can use past tense. But it's going to be things like initiate, organize, lead, manage. So always start with a strong action verb. And just like we did in the summary, write this in the third person as if it's a statement, right? As if somebody's talking about you. So get rid of all the me, my's, I, all the personal pronouns. Finally, then it's results driven. And this is where the hard part is. You want to articulate and demonstrate the success that you've had in your current role. So you look valuable and useful in a new role, right? If you can talk about your great accomplishments, like somebody had mentioned, Alexander praising my achievements. This is where you're going to demonstrate that in those bullet points. And so that's daunting for me, right? And this is where I think your AI technology is really going to be helpful in allowing you to concisely share in one statement, in 2 sentences, how and what and why you'd be of value in the roles that you're applying to that are tailored to their job description. Okay, any other questions coming through here that we can talk through? Anybody curious to know kind of what the top hiring skills that people are looking for right now? Or would somebody be willing to take a risk and say what you think those skills are? I'd love to see that in the comment. I can share what my research shows and my data. What do you think are the most important skills that you should be demonstrating and or articulating in a resume that may not be like industry specific, some broader high level skills? Any suggestions out there? Independent, yes. Self-driven, for sure. Collaboration, teamwork, absolutely. Leadership, yes, especially in the more entry-level space as well. Soft skills, communication, and team building, yes. As we have pivoted to, remote and hybrid, there is no better time now than to be beefing up on your ability to work remotely in teams, communicate, collaborate effectively. Productivity, yes. Time management, yes. Another big one that I want you to keep on your radar is the adaptability, agility, ability to pivot, because guess what? That's where work is going right now. With the advancements such as AI, our jobs that we have here today are going to look different probably in a year from now with the advancement of AI, right? They're talking about replacing jobs. And so I just want to remind you too that there's been multiple times within our work history where people have said, email is going to be the demise of communication, or, all the other changes that have happened. And we just adapt and adjust to those. And so your job may look different, and employers want to know that you can relearn, do something different, adapt, and have agility in the type of work that you do. So we won't go into the controversial side of how AI affects job roles and titles, but it's coming. And if we've learned anything, change is coming faster than ever. So to be able to articulate and demonstrate how you can pivot easily, adapt quickly, continue to learn, be curious, those are all skills that employers are looking for. Okay, so I'm going to take a pause here for just a moment to see if there's any questions centered around content or what a resume should, consist of. We're going to go into development here in a minute and application of some of these platforms to help you develop strong results-driven bullet points. But any questions I can answer about content and what it should consist of? Is it okay for bullet points to span multiple lines? Yes, it can be. But if you're having two thoughts in one bullet point, I would encourage you to create two different bullet points. But
I'm looking back through the chat here.
Yeah.
We had some comments back when we were talking about the professional summary.
Yeah.
And there was one that talked about, where is it? One person mentioned that they are a hiring manager and don't even look at the professional summary.
Yeah. And there could be different processes for different employers. Our feedback from our recruiting partners appreciate that. And then just from an applicant standpoint, again, a place to keyword optimize. So you choose what's right for you if you don't want to do a professional summary, but I love that.
One other question or one comment, question. Someone mentioned that they heard ATS systems don't discriminate against length. So would it be easier to keyword optimize with a longer resume, or do you still keep it shorter?
I would still keep it shorter. I always am in a camp of less is more, but that's from, after it gets through an applicant tracking system, is it aesthetically pleasing and manageable for the human eye, right? So you don't want to overwhelm, say your ranking gets high, and so your resume gets pulled, and then it's so much, right? I don't have 10 minutes to look at your resume. I've got about 60 seconds to decide whether or not I want to pursue you as a candidate.
Okay, a quick one.
Yeah.
Is it okay to use the and symbol, or should we use the word and?
That's a great question. So many applicant tracking systems have a hard time with symbols, so it might be a challenge. So I guess to err on the side of getting through, I would probably use the word and. I haven't heard anybody specifically say, like, don't use the ampersand and, but it does, and can have challenges reading symbols. So that's a good strategy. Yep.
And one last one here that I think is really, really good. With COVID having had an impact on a lot of people's jobs, their performance, their ability to do their job. How do you write your resume to still reflect that you're a great worker? You can perform if your most recent roles don't necessarily show that.
Well, certainly in your role, you had to have either, they wouldn't have kept you on if you weren't successful, right? So, how did you increase profits? How did you decrease? So it doesn't have to be that you won the Employee of the Month award, but rather just demonstrate to me how you were effective in your previous roles. Were you that person that built a really strong sense of community within your hybrid team? right? I mean, that's demonstrating that you have value, right? So I don't know if that's helpful, but I believe everybody out there has been successful to some extent in their current role. Just be creative with how to identify the value that you come across. Is that helpful? Does that kind of answer that question?
Yeah, thank you. I think we've gotten through, and I'll go back and look as the webinar continues. I'll go back and look and see what other questions we didn't get to, and we can include that in the follow-up.
Yeah, and just another follow-up too, if you feel like your performance hasn't been good in the last 3 to 5 years due to challenging environments and circumstances, simply share how you are continue to be curious about something, or how you are evolving and learning more about something else to be better, right? So be human, and then just show, again, I mentioned earlier, ability to pivot and be curious is something that they're seeking, because we're going to need that in the workforce moving forward. So something as simple as that might be effective. Okay. Yeah, so if you're in a sales role and, typically a, 20% increase in customer retention, if you don't have that data, just simply show how you improved internal morale across the sales team, or, whatever your value was. It may not be in numbers or profits, or, you have other value as well. Okay. Let's head to the next slide. Are we in a good space right now? I think now we're about 40 minutes in. So I want to spend these last few minutes actually going in, sharing some of the resources that I use with my students, as well as go into some of these and kind of just demonstrate how they work. Okay, so first one, anybody out there familiar with Jobscan.co? So that is not a typo, it is indeed .co. Jobscan.co has so much wealth of information around applicant tracking systems, effective resumes, keyword optimizing. So I think that's the first one that I'll go into and kind of demonstrate for you. This and most of these are free of charge for you. But with free memberships always come limitations. So I want to make sure that you're aware of the limitations, but also the benefits. As you start to begin your career search or your job search, if you just go into JobScan, the first couple of times with a couple of job descriptions that you're really interested in pursuing, and just compare your resume to the job description to see how closely it aligns. At that point, you after you do it a couple of times, you're going to have that aha moment where you go, oh yeah, that's right, I'm not using the right keywords, right? So I like this for an initial search. Once you get your confidence up and now you understand what I mean by keyword optimizing, this is a great platform. Limitations of this, however, like I said, it's the free version, I think, allows you 5 free scans a month. So you're going to either want to use this sparingly, or again, use it as a learning curve to help you better understand what keyword optimization is. So here is the site right here. I'm going to share screen here for a moment and just kind of walk you through and demonstrate how this works. So give me a moment here to get my technology going. Okay, so you saw Matt had loaded. Are we sharing? Okay, hopefully you can see. Yep. So when you log in, there'll be a sign in or sign up button. You'll click on that. Things that I love in this site as you look through, I love the JobScan blog. It has a lot of great information for job seekers to help you beat applicant tracking systems, cover letters, LinkedIn, career changes. So just a wealth of information to help you start exploring, become really competitive in your space. But I'm logged in here, so I'm going to go to my dashboard. And so what this site looks like, you can see I'm in here. I have 3 scans available. I can upgrade and pay, but I am not a proponent of paying for any of these. So don't feel like you need to go in and do that. But you can have your LinkedIn scan. You can do a cover letter scan. But this is where I want to show you. You can copy and paste. So I've got a resume pulled open, one of our templates. I'm going to copy and paste resume content in here. I'm going to go to LinkedIn and grab a job description for us to play with here. I grab this, and so now I can scan the job description against my resume. And let me show you what we get here. Okay, so you can see my searchability. I've got 5 issues here. So it's telling us what we should do to correct. Okay. Then it's got a section of hard skills. As we look down, and again, this is the free version, so you only get these other ones if you upgrade. But again, I don't think it's necessary if you understand the top 3 skills from that job description. But how you analyze this is, in the job description, the word construction is listed 3 times. So the more times usually that a keyword is used in a job description means its value is higher. And that's the keyword that you want to get in more throughout your resume. So then it's telling me my resume doesn't use the word construction at all. So that's a trigger to me that I got to go in and I'm going to relook at my resume. And is there a way for me to incorporate the word construction? And again, that can be as easy as updating your professional summary, simply demonstrating your interest as a construction management. So that's, now you've used the word construction, so you've got it in there at least once. And then could you creatively go down and look and see if you can use that word in a different way, in a different sentence? Did you construct something that could help in you keyword optimizing the word construction? Now, RFI is a word, but it's only coming in once. So again, this is where the human critical thinking is. I'm old school too with my job descriptions. I first print out a job description. I take my highlighter and I highlight the skills and qualifications that I know I have and or could do. And then you take it into a software such as this and just confirm that that's showing up, multiple times. So I want to get it in my resume a couple of times, but we don't have access to those. But then soft skills as well. And right now, the resume that I load in there doesn't have any of the soft skills that this application is looking for. So I know I got to go in and double check what their soft skills were. Maybe that's leadership, communication, adaptability, those kinds of things. And I got to get it worked in. Word count. So it's telling you suggested word count for resume. So when you talk about how much and length, this is what this platform is suggesting. Measurable results. So again, when we create bullet points, we want to make sure that they are results driven and measurable. So then you can, go in and tweak your resume, re-upload it, see if it comes across as a stronger match. We're at 34% on this match rate. They're going to tell you it's best if you can be around that 70%. So I do like this platform as kind of a rogue entry level tool that you can use to kind of identify keywords. But you'll see that we're going to use other platforms to get more robust data back on that. Any questions on Jobscan? If not, we're going to keep going on to the next one. Okay, LinkedIn Learning. So probably most of you out there are utilizing LinkedIn to some extent, right? I want to just share with you a tool that LinkedIn has within their LinkedIn Learning. So if you have premium, you might have access to LinkedIn Learning. So if you're that person, I just kind of want to show you what that looks like. So give me a minute to load LinkedIn. So that was the job description that I used in that previous example. But if we go over to LinkedIn Learning, which is up in that upper right-hand corner, I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but when you click on this 3-button browse, they're starting to add guides. And what I love about this is you can pick out the role that you're interested in. So let's say I want to go into sales or in sales and want to continue to seek out. When I scroll down, it'll tell you the top sales manager skills that LinkedIn is reporting, and that is data that is pulled from job descriptions that are posted. So that's another great way to find, well, what skills should I be lifting up for a certain specific role and or industry. So I like those a lot. So I wanted to share that technology. I'll stop sharing that for a moment. Any questions on LinkedIn or Jobscan.co as we're going through here? Okay, so let's do the next one. Although, I'm going to skip Chat GP for right now, only because we can do almost everything that we're doing in these other platforms in Chat GPT. So I'm going to save that for last. But I want to go into this ramped.com. This is a fairly new software as well. And I'm going to share this with you. So this is what Ramped looks like. Again, this is free as well. So you will, sign up. It's free. I'm going to log in here. And so now these are all the AI tools that this software has to offer. You can write a cover letter. You can explore a job. You can find your next job. You can generate that resume summary, generate resume bullet points, learn about a company. And then these, as you can see, are coming soon. So it's a fairly new technology, but have really latched onto this and enjoy its features here. So if you're somebody that's pivoting, you might look at this and what are the types of jobs you'd like to explore. If I want to go into project management and learn a little bit more about what that is, it's generating kind of an overview of what project management is. So this is my initial research as I start to pursue jobs in that area. And that's another key thing. I can't emphasize enough to do your research before you start applying, right? Go in and learn a little bit more about the role, your audience, the functions. So this is kind of a cool tool. It'll even give you compensation. Now, the caveat is I don't know where they pull that data from in terms of salary. So that would be a whole nother webinar in terms of identifying what your fair market value is. But I like sites like glassdoor.com for that. LinkedIn salary is another good tool. But anyway, so I like that. So I wanted to share this platform with you. Okay.
Hey, Tanya, can you go back to LinkedIn really quick and show that last thing? I think that for me at least, the screen was frozen maybe.
Oh, shoot. Yeah,
you just show that last thing again.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, share. Okay, can you see this okay right now? So you'll go up to this LinkedIn Learning button. When you click into that, if you go over to the 3 bullet points here, the browse feature.
See, this is where we might have to come back to this because it's not showing up, at least for me. It's not moving past.
How about this? Okay, I had to view. Okay, so I had to click on a different technology. So view tab. Okay, so sorry, we're in that LinkedIn Learning. And then here's that 3-button browse. Okay, so we go there. This is role guidelines. And again, they're adding more and more roles in here. So if you were somebody wanting to get into HR and become a recruiter, I can go in and I can start to identify top recruiter skills that they're looking for. Okay. Which is, okay, so another little soapbox of mine. Remember that, a lot of companies now are starting to hire more skills-based instead of paper-based, meaning the degree, right? So I encourage you to upskill and gain competencies within your organization that can help you appear to be qualified and or curious about an industry. That's going to be really powerful for you. And LinkedIn is just one way to go about that. You've got Google, you've got Microsoft has certifications, things like that. So, okay, we good with that? Let's see if we can go back to my slide. Candor. So if you are that person that's actively seeking employment at this time, and because again, you're hearing mixed sides of, hey, we're hiring, no, we're doing big layoffs. So it depends on what industry you're in. I like to share this. Oh yeah, there you go. Matt's got it on there. So if you go to Candor, CANDOR.co/hiring-freezes. And as Matt scrolls down there, you can see the companies and the status of their hiring. So there's thousands right now. There's 8,000 employers in there that are sharing and showing if they are hiring and or freezing. So of course, your most successful job search is going to be aimed at those companies that are actively hiring, so you don't get so many rejection. So I just thought that would be a useful tool for y'all to have access to. I used this heavily during COVID when there was a pause in hiring and rescinding of offers and internships, and just haven't got away from using it because I find it really valuable. So, okay, so there's that tool. So now let's cross our fingers. Everybody send good energy to the universe that ChatGPT is going to let us in here. So I do just the free version of ChatGPT, but there's other search engines as well, such as Bing has their own. And so anyway, this is not the here all end all. It's just what my go-to has been and have enjoyed using it. So now I'm going to go to ChatGPT and share with you this. If you have not been in here, again, this is free. The limitations of this is that when there hits a user capacity, you will not get in. So you may not get it just in time, but I've never had to wait longer than 5 or 10 minutes to access and get into it. So I do find it, for me, to be the most helpful in terms of doing what I want to do and get results that I'm looking for. So you would sign up. I'm going to log into mine here, and you'll go into ChatGPT. So Dolly is more of the visual AI technology. So if you are creating images, more artistic things, you would use Dolly, but we're going to use ChatGPT for our demonstration here today. So if you're new to AI, I can't emphasize enough the importance of your prompts. And a prompt is what I'm about ready to ask the machine to do for me, right? So the more specific you are, the more tailored you are, the better results you're going to get from the system. And ChatGPT or OpenAI, I need to remind you too, is this is not browsing the web for information. Okay, so I think Bing does that. And the next wave, I think it's already released. I saw some of you that had your AI number 5s, like you were the experts. You might be able to speak to this, but they have launched the ChatGPT 4.0 or something that does have browser capabilities, I want to say. But anyway, so this is information that has been put into the system through 2021. Okay, so if you're looking at something that's fairly recent in the world, you probably are not going to get accurate results because it doesn't have that data in the system yet to pull from. So that is another limitation. Which again, as we use AI, it is still the user's responsibility, right, to decipher whether or not truth is being generated. But all AI generated results are unique content, or at least they should be. And that will also depend on how you use your prompts, right? Okay, so we are in ChatGPT. So let's just use an example here. I am creating a resume and I've got, a sample one pulled up. what you want to do when you start working with prompts is tell the computer who you are and give it some context. So if I wanted to generate bullet points around me being a sales manager in the car industry, let's hypothetically speaking, what I first want to do is say, I'm telling GPT, you are a current sales professional in the car industry. Help me create 3 results-driven bullet points around my role to use in my resume. So that might be something, okay? So we're going to see how quickly this will produce some pretty strong bullet points. Exceeded sales targets, consistently surpass monthly sales targets by leveraging effective communication and negotiation skills to close deals. Achieved an average of, and of course you would, put in whatever your number is, because we haven't told ChatGPT that we are the top salesman. And then maybe that's part of your prompt too. You could say, okay, great, demonstrate how I was the top performing salesman for 2023, something along that line, and see if it ranked as top sales performer of 2023, and then it just regenerated what those other ones out there, and it looks like it's incorporating it back into the others. But you're seeing how this is just really an inspiration for you on how to get started. Now we could say rework to start each bullet point with a strong action verb, because as I shared earlier, we want to always start. So now it's going to rework these: achieved, drove, garnered. So if you're liking those, great. You might even then, the next prompt, give me additional keywords for garner, or give me additional action verbs for garner, because I don't like that word maybe. So that's how you can easily generate effective bullet points, because I find that to be the most challenging. Now, we talked earlier about, okay, well, I've got a job description, I've got my resume. What are the keywords that I should be lifting up? So now you can tell ChatGPT, I'm going to share my resume with you and have you analyze it to a job description. Share with me the top 5 keywords I should include in my resume. I can spell today. So now is where I would throw in content from my existing resume. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to put a quick job description. I'm going to use that same one that I used. Job description, ... And then I'm going to have it generate it for me. So based on the provided job description, here are the top 5 keywords you should include in your resume: project management, client services, financial forecasting, documentation, and organization. So you're starting to see how that power is, that you can utilize this to find almost anything. It looks like we're starting to run out of time here. So what questions can I answer for you at this point? I'll stop sharing. But there's so much power in ChatGPT, but know to use it with ethics and with integrity. And It'll be a great assistant for you, especially in generating cover letters. I mean, how frustrating is it? You get to the application process and they say, now upload your cover letter. And you're like, oh, this could be really helpful in helping you generate a cover letter that is aligned with the job description. So you type in the same prompts, generate me a cover letter, a 1-page cover letter using my resume and the job description. And so it could really help streamline your processes and get your documentations in order for application. So.
Tanya, thank you so much. I've dabbled in ChatGPT a little bit, but I didn't know that you should or could talk to it the way that you were sharing with us. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for giving us your time today. This topic was so interesting. Clearly we could talk for hours more.
I know.
You could give us so much more information. For everyone, thank you so much for joining live today. If you end up watching in the playback, send me questions if you have any. I will get to all of these questions that we didn't get to, and I'll work with Tanya to provide some feedback and resources. I will send an email out with all of the links that she shared so that you can have all of that. So feel free to send me questions. Tanya shared her information, which I can share again in the email. She's open to helping you as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.